everyone. In this video I am going to be looking at the features, the pros, the cons and the real world performance of this lovely graphics pen monitor, the Ugee Hk1560. I've had this monitor for about 9 months now. I've also owned Wacom's Cintiq Pro 13 in the past and definitely feel the Hk1560 is a good cheaper alternative, so I will reference back to that quite a lot in this video. Of course, the price difference does mean that this Hk1560 lacks some features of the Cintiq Pro, but keep in mind the extra features of the Cintiq Pro are more luxury rather than necessities. Both pen monitors will still be able to produce great artwork regardless of whether it has, for example, a touchscreen or not. I've already listed all the accessories which come in the box, as well as covering the setup process in detail in the unboxing video. I'll leave a link in the description box as well as the cards, which you can access by clicking on the info button on the top corner here. Let's start by looking at the design and ergonomics of the monitor and the pen. Having owned a Wacom Cintiq Pro previously, I immediately noticed how similar the design is. It's got a modern simplistic look with a matte screen. It's an aesthetic which would suit any desk and room setup. It doesn't have touchscreen capabilities yet, even though it's coming towards the end of 2018 and we now live in a world full of touchscreen devices. It's not really a necessary feature though for a pen monitor. However, I do feel like this would benefit from a few touch buttons for quick access to settings and changing screen brightness, etc. While no touchscreen is a very minor drawback, the Hk1560 makes up with its amazing adjustable stand which comes as standard. This is a feature which Wacom have yet to implement. It can easily be adjusted from a flat position all the way up to 90 degrees upright, allowing its users to find their most comfortable drawing angle. The screen itself is 15.6 inches with 1920 by 1080 HD resolution. This is about 2 inches larger than the Cintiq Pro 13 which I used to own. In fact, the larger size Wacom, which is the Cintiq Pro 16, the actual screen size which I found on Wacom's website is 15.6 inches. Of course, the Cintiq Pro 16 comes equipped with an amazing 4K screen, but the point to note here is the size being slightly larger than the 13-inch range of monitors, making the drawing experience that much more comfortable, yet it's smaller than the 22-inch monitors you can get, which some users just don't have the space for. The display can be calibrated to adjust the colours. I've managed to get my Hk1560 to be as close to my MacBook Pro as possible. I've gone into detail on how I did that in the unboxing and setup video I mentioned earlier. You may not be able to get an exact colour match to the laptop or computer screen that you have, but should be able to get it pretty close. This might be a deal breaker if colour accuracy is vital to your workflow. Personally, it's never been an issue for me as I have to have this connected to my MacBook Pro anyway, and it's easy for me to glance over at my MacBook screen and check if colours are okay now and then. This particular unit was from GearBest, who kindly fit on a matte screen protector over the very glossy display which it usually comes in if bought from other places. Both matte and gloss screens have their pros and cons. Personally, I prefer matte for drawing. There's less glare, the pen tip moves across the screen naturally and has a paper-like feel. Whereas with gloss there is a lot of reflection, especially if there are strong light sources nearby, and often the palm of the hand resting on the screen as I draw doesn't glide as smoothly. Wearing gloves to combat this issue often means sweaty hands when working in warm weather. But if gloss screens are your thing, the matte protector can always be peeled off to reveal the beautiful gloss screen underneath. The Hk1560 weighs about 2.27 kilos. Due to the size and also the weight of both the pen monitor and my laptop together, I wouldn't choose to carry it around with me unless I had to. For example, if I was going to be staying at my parents' for the weekend, then yeah, I'd probably take it. But if I was hanging out at a coffee shop for a couple of hours, then definitely a no-no. I think it's still far more portable than the Ugee 2150 model. I'd probably recommend buying one of those tiny business class cabin bags if you intend to carry it on a daily basis, which I think is a pretty good idea if you're a student and want to take it to college every day. For me, however, I like to have a spacious work area on my desk. so I always store the Hk1560 on a higher shelf when I'm not using it. The lightweight allows me to do it effortlessly. The cable ports on the Hk1560 are on the left side instead of the bottom like some of the other budget pen monitors that I have tried. Having the cable ports positioned to one side allows for easier tilting and easier setup, as well as giving the cables less strain. 3 cables are required to connect to a PC or laptop, which is standard for pretty much all pen monitors. The cables fit comfortably into the ports on the display. I've never experienced loss of connection due to loose cables or anything like that. The Hk1560 supports 2048 levels of pressure, which is a decent amount. Having higher pressure level than this is not going to make any difference in quality of your artwork. The 2 pens that come with this are rechargeable and they last for hours and hours before they need charging. Ugee also included 2 chargers so you can charge both pens together. However, I don't see the need in my workflow to charge both pens together because the charge lasts for so long. Also take note that this pen doesn't support tilting. I have noticed that not many artists actually use the tilting feature, so this might not be important for many of you out there. And there is also no eraser function at the top of the pen like Wacom pens. But it does have 2 shortcut buttons on the side which allows the user to switch between pen mode and eraser mode as well as right click function. The pen is designed very similar to Wacom's Pro Pen and is quite comfortable to work with. It also includes a pen stand which is very handy as it not only gives a place for the pen to stand but also holds 8 extra nibs and a nib remover tool. I've also noticed these nibs last a while, unlike Wacom nibs which seem to wear down a lot faster. However, I did notice the tip of the nibs is slightly fatter than Wacom nibs. So how does it all perform when actually drawing? There is of course some parallax, which is basically distance between the pen tip and actual stroke due to the thickness of the top glass of the screen. All pen monitors have some parallax. The Hk1560's parallax isn't too much, and believe me when I say you're not going to notice the parallax much after about 15 to 20 minutes of using it. In comparison to other pen monitors, the parallax isn't that bad anyway. And here's a tip, calibrate it in the angle and position you would have the monitor when drawing, so that way you have the least parallax issue when drawing. The monitor is usually mirrored by default, but settings can quickly be adjusted to turn it into a second monitor. This is particularly useful when you want to have a reference picture or maybe watch Netflix while drawing on the monitor. Now, I want to point out the pen jitter, which may be another deal breaker for some, depending on your workflow. The jitter on this particular pen monitor is quite noticeable, especially when drawing slowly. But for majority of us users, it probably won't matter since 90% of art programs such as Clip Studio Pro, Sketchbook, Mischief, Paint Tool Sai, and that's just to name a few, they all have pen stabilization features. This feature eliminates pen jitter. In fact, Sketchbook's Steady Stroke tool allows me to create amazing strokes using just my touchpad. In terms of compatibility, I'm using a MacBook and I've done a bit of doodling on Jitter, Mischief, Sketchbook, Photoshop, Illustrator, and made a couple of pieces of artwork in Clip Studio Pro, and the pen pressure all worked flawlessly. And with that, this comes to the end of my review. Overall, I feel like the 15.6-inch screen is an ideal size, and I'm pretty sure we will see more pen monitors of this size being released as it's so comfortable. It's not too big, it's not too small. Of course, Wacom already have 2 16-inch options in the form of the Cintiq Pro 16 and the Mobile Studio Pro 16. There is some parallax, which is only a small amount, and the jitter is more noticeable than some other models I have used, such as Ugee's 2150. But it doesn't really matter to me as software pen stabilization eliminates this issue. The color calibration of the screen isn't great straight out the box, but settings can be adjusted to get decent color calibration. But you'll never get the high Adobe RGB colors of the new Wacom Cintiq Pro and Mobile Studio Pro ranges. which means this pen monitor isn't for professionals where colour accuracy is absolutely essential. Unless of course that said professional has another high-end monitor they can glance over to check colours every so often. Personally, I don't think that's very practical. The lightweight means it's ideal for students who want to carry this to places but cannot afford a Mobile Studio Pro, which is the ultimate for portability. The design is modern and fairly slim in comparison to many other pen monitors. The built-in detachable stand is absolutely fantastic. Basically, it's a great pen monitor for the price that does what it's supposed to do to a good standard. I've gone into all the details I could in this video. It's up to the individual to decide if it will suit their workflow. Personally, I prefer the Hk1560 over Ugee's 2150. However, at the same time, I understand why many would still choose the 2150. After all, it has a lovely 21.5 inch screen. Anyway, that's it from me about Ugee's Hk1560. Enjoy the rest of your day, or maybe it's night where you are. Until next time, bye!